live. Now, when
All right.
it says you are live on my end. Do you see it show that you are live too?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I didn't know whether or not it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
me.
You you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Welcome to the Micheaux Mission, Two Men, One Podcast. Every
Whoa, whoa,
black.
whoa, 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 whoa. Nobody's watching yet.
Yeah, but we're just recording. You know what? All right, fine. Just tell me that. All right. Well, no.
No, we're recording. You didn't stop the recording, did you?
No. I
Yeah, no,
just.
don't stop it. Don't stop it. Don't trust me. This will work. It'll work. I wait for people to chime in.
Yeah.
Don't give me
Yeah.
that. Don't give me that look.
Go
Don't
ahead. All
give.
right.
Don't give me that look.
Hey, look. Just you let me know.
None of your sassafras, sir. Okay, we have people watching, and
All
now,
right.
Vince, you can
Now
introduce
now
the show.
now we can. You ready?
Now you can
All right.
introduce.
Welcome to the Micheaux Mission, Two Men, One Podcast, every black film ever made. My name is Vincent Williams, and I'm joined as always by my partner.
Hey, what's up? This is Len, aka the Bat Tribble.
And on this, the fourth and final stop on our Black Music Month celebration, we will spend some time with 1992's Bodyguard, significant because it is the film debut of the icon Whitney Houston, also starring Kevin Costner, as well as Micheaux Mission favorite Bill Cobbs, who I thought
Yeah.
should have gotten third billing. This was the choice of Lynn Webb. But before we get into the Bodyguard,
Let's get into all the feedback that we get from each and every one of you who writes us at micheauxmission@gmail.com and follows us on all social medias, where you're watching us right now on YouTube, in our Micheaux Mission YouTube channel, as well as in the Micheaux Mission Facebook group. Shout out to Aaron Fry, Maurice Popular, and Deborah Battle. How you doing?
hey, what's up, folks?
I see you out there checking us out. And Vince, I hate to start the show with a correction, but I must. The film that we are reviewing tonight is called The Bodyguard. It is not simply Bodyguard, and it's not called My Bodyguard, as I have been calling it erroneously for years. It is actually The Bodyguard.
So it's like a difference between Batman and the Batman?
Yes. Yes. Well, there is a difference between Batman and the Batman. I
As
made
there's a difference between Bodyguard and the Bodyguard.
exactly. So we are reviewing The Bodyguard. But in regards to our review last week of Sparkle from 2012, Sweet Honey Child wrote us on Instagram.
All right. I like that name.
Thanks, guys. I'm one of your very silent but loyal listeners. Now I know I don't have to watch this remake. Appreciate you.
It's a public service from us to you.
That's not nice. but apt.
Yeah.
You do not have to watch the remake of Sparkle. So thank you, Sweet Honey Child, for that commentary. Maurice Popular says, we've got spicy Vince tonight.
No. Always.
Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Most definitely. In our Facebook group, people are always dropping stories left and right in there. And someone wrote in asking us to follow up, Vince, on our thoughts of Dave Chappelle's recent YouTube special, 846, where he gives I think blistering is a fair adjective to put to his commentary on the killing or murder of George Floyd and the protests and that ensued from that horrific event, and all of the voices that have been popping up since then.
Right, because you hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Right. So I talked a little bit about it, but you hadn't seen it. So maybe let's start at the start. What'd you think?
Well, I felt the same as you. I thought that it was very, like Dave Chappelle is a comedian first, and I think he is that, but I think he has also grown into a bit of a social commentator as well. As you will find, a lot of the best comedians kind of drift somewhere in between those spheres anyway. And I think Dave Chappelle is growing more into that. So looking at it from that point of view, I think it is some brilliant commentary / comedy about what is happening, and it is not much comedy, like you pointed out. It's not that funny. It is all just facts, just pile drived into your head, about not only the horror of the murder of George Floyd, but as well as all of the other atrocities that we have been asked to just more or less, bear upon our shoulders in the most recent years. And in doing so, I thought it was insightful. I thought it was at times incendiary, but I thought that it was brilliantly done, and yet it misses its opportunity because, like you, I felt that he was needlessly misogynistic in a lot of his commentary, especially in regards to, now I'm drawing a blank on her name, the conservative.
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens.
Right.
Now, he can have his viewpoint about her all he wants, and he actually offered a viewpoint about another woman on there as well. But I thought that it was very telling that I thought it was very interesting that he calls these two women decidedly out of their name, like grossly out of their name, basically using words for them that even most comedians stay away from,
and they're gendered insults.
Definitely.
It's not like he called them assholes.
Right. They're definitely gendered insults that he lays at their feet, right? These women who, if I'm getting the inference from his commentary correct, he also does not know personally. So it sounded like pretty much everything he was reacting to was what they were doing in the public sphere, whatever commentary they were offering out there on what was happening in these streets. And you can agree or disagree with what they were saying, but to be as insulting misogynistically as he was to them, and yet, and this is what it really hit home with me, when he mentions the man George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin, right?
Right.
And he mentions George Zimmerman, and he speaks slightly ill of George Zimmerman, but he takes the time to mention, I don't know George Zimmerman. I just dislike the idea of George Zimmerman. And I think in many ways, when he's talking about the commentary that Candace Owens and other women are putting out there on these conservative airwaves, I think what he actually is railing against is the idea of them as well. Yet he doesn't frame it in that way. And in doing so, I think he opens himself up, rightfully so, for derision, because he just comes off like a very misogynistic jerk at that time in
Right.
those instances. And for me, did it, you know, erase everything else that he does in those 20, 22 minutes on screen and on that stage? No, it doesn't. But if someone was to say that it does, I could not argue
Right.
because it's right there.
And it was just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like it was such. It's like, all right, I'm gonna try a sports thing. Let me know if I get this right.
Okay.
It's like he missed an easy layup.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it was so easy not to even go like, especially since you've been called on this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have to say, like, maybe this is my own blind spot. I think the other woman, Laura Ingraham, I
That's
honestly
Laura
didn't.
Ingraham.
Right, but she's a white woman,
Right.
and like that's a whole different dynamic.
Right.
And frankly, white men are going to protect white women.
Gotcha.
But we're living in a moment where justifiably, I think so many of us as Black men are being called to the carpet
mm-hmm.
because of our shortcomings in our relationships with Black women. I mean, just in this special, where it's like you talk about something, a saying like Black Lives Matter, which is like the bare minimum. Yeah. But even within that, you have an even barer minimum where someone like Breonna Taylor or even Oluwodowan Salou, the sister who was murdered in Tallahassee, Black women have to say underneath Black Lives Matter, say her name.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you have to say her name.
Yeah, and it's very telling that he doesn't mention Breonna Taylor on that.
Right.
On that special.
Right. So to come at a Black woman like that, and again, I said everything I wanted to say about her last week, and frankly, I don't like giving air to her because I do think she's a fraud, and I do think that she is an opportunist. But at the same time, I'm aware of the context of our relationship.
Right.
That I'm a Black man, she's a Black woman. Frankly, she's a bit younger than us. So that check her, describe her accurately, but you don't have to call her out her name, especially in a moment when so many of us as Black men, frankly, are being, challenged for our shortcomings with Black women. Like, why do that? So,
yeah.
And it mars something that is so brutally honest,
Right.
It's so brutally honest and it's so pure. And then it's like you just wipe a little bit of shit on it. It's like, oh, dog, you didn't have to do that.
You did not have to go there. Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad you saw it.
No, I did see it. I was glad that I watched it as well. Like I said, it was some powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Some powerful stuff, So, yeah, I encourage everybody to check it out and see for yourself.
Hey, speaking of things, did you get a chance to catch that Go-Go documentary?
I did not. I wanted to check that out. How was it, man? Was it
dope? It was glorious.
Really?
I told you I'm not a real Go-Go fan, but like I got lots of people around me that are Go-Go fans. And I was just so happy. Like it's so, like it was just so passionately DC.
Right.
Like Go-Go people just love Go-Go so much, and it really was just a celebration.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's streaming on TV One or I know they'll play it again, but definitely catch it.
That's right. The Beat Don't Stop. That's the name.
Yeah. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Like I've had some opinions on Kathy Hughes over the years, but kudos to Kathy Hughes.
Cool.
Kudos to Kathy Hughes for putting this together.
Aaron Fry in our on YouTube is letting us know that it is actually on again tomorrow night at 9 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. So check your local listings on TV One for The Beat Don't Stop, the documentary on the go-go music. According to Vince, it is worth watching, so go check that out.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Vince, did you see the trailer for the Janelle Monáe movie Antebellum, which will be coming out in August.
I've not seen the newest trailer. I think I might be done with the trailers.
In that you've seen enough.
Right, I've seen enough, so I just want to see it now.
Yeah, this is a new movie, upcoming American horror film written and directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz, starring Janelle Monáe, Mark Richardson, Eric Lang, Jack Houston, Kiersey Clemens. Successful author Veronica Henley finds herself trapped in a nightmarish reality which produces anachronistic social structures and must find a way to break free. Um, this film being distributed by Lionsgate, it looks like it's definitely trying to catch the vibe of Get Out and Us, and you know that's why they're marketing it as from the producers of Get Out and Us. Even though, to be fair, Jordan Peele I don't believe is involved in it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're definitely trying to catch that same vibe. And it looks interesting. One thing I will say about Janelle Monáe, between that and she's actually on this season of the Amazon show Homecoming. She's been doing more and more work before the camera in the acting spheres, and she is actually quitting herself very, very well. She's doing big things.
And she makes interesting choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, she makes interesting choices, which, you know, I'm a big fan of actors who establish themselves, that they make interesting choices.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's almost like a shorthand.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, well, they're in this, so it's probably interesting.
Yeah. And kudos to her, because Janelle Monáe, you know, is, you know, a devastating performer, fantastic singer. And, you know, let's not, you know, let's call it what it is. She is a very attractive woman as well, and yet it would be very easy as a singer and a pretty singer to do like some kind of romantic comedy type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like you said, she seems to be going a little deeper, and I appreciate that about her. Have you heard, Vince, about 36 Chambers?
You mean where the Wu-Tang Clan comes? Oh, you mean the movie series?
Yes.
Yes, I have heard about it. Yes.
Actually, is 36 Chambers presents 36 Cinema, a new platform. It's a first of a kind experience, live streaming some of the favorite black movies. Well, I shouldn't say black movies, favorite movies, while bringing in respected film experts to provide live commentary. Their hope is that the live commentary will give viewers a deeper understanding and appreciation of the movies that they love. I believe they're actually reviewing tonight. I believe they're actually reviewing your movie, Vince, Petey Wheatstraw.
Yes, Petey Wheatstraw, Devil's Son-in-Law. That's right.
Yeah, I believe they're reviewing that along with Donnell Rawlings, the acclaimed actor and comedian, will be reviewing that, doing a live commentary along with Mike Sargent. Excuse me, that is not actually this evening. That will be taking place on Friday, this coming Friday, June 26th, at 9 o'clock p.m. You can go to 36 Chambers, cinema.36chambers.com for more information about that, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds interesting. I
yes,
like
that
does.
Idea.
I cannot knock that idea. It sounds dope, you know, having people just watching these films, and you can like join in on the experience. You can pay like a little bit of money to watch the film and listen to the live commentary. That sounds really dope. I hope that goes well for RZA and all the people of Wu associated with that.
Yes. The Wu Association, that's one of the later groups. That was during that last round.
You think
RZA's plumber produced it.
You think that perhaps we could talk them into letting us do a night on 36 Cinema where we provide a live commentary for Driving Miss Daisy.
I would love to do it. I was thinking Ghost Dog, but we could do Driving Miss Daisy too. Sure, why not?
Ghost Dog. We'll do a double header.
A double header. A double header.
Driving Miss Daisy
and Ghost Dog. The Way of the Samurai. Maybe Frank from the Bodyguard will come and watch it because it's a samurai movie.
Maybe. I see what you did there, Vince.
You see what I did there? You see what I did?
Nicely done, Vince. Boots Riley has announced his new project, Vince. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
Boots Riley is going to do a dark and absurd project starring Gerald Jerome as a 13-foot tall man in a project called I'm a Virgo, an episodic joyride is what Boots is calling this venture.
Boots Riley is a national treasure. He's a national treasure.
For those that don't know, Boots Riley recognize that name. He was the writer and director of the weirdly absurd, but very well-regarded film, Sorry to Bother You. From
one of my favorite movies that year.
Yeah, most definitely. And if anyone has seen that, you know that Boots Riley, he is thinking on a whole like we're trying to catch up with Star Trek on some three-dimensional chess. He is I don't know where he is, dog.
He's playing ninth dimensional backgammon. Against like his shadow.
Exactly. Like him and his shadow are playing spades with the Lord. I don't know what he is
doing.
Dog. His game is he's on some next stuff, man. Just the title, I'm a Virgo.
Right.
Like
It's
insane. It's insane. I ain't mad at him though.
Not at all. I'm looking forward to it. You know, I love this moment in Black film.
Yeah.
Where people, just make whatever you want.
Maurice Poplar is also reminding us that Boots Riley was also the longtime rapper and frontman for who, Vince?
For the Coup.
That's right.
Coup. Did they break up?
I don't know.
I was hoping. Yeah. That's right.
I mean, I don't think they could have kept up with Boots. Like
I know.
I think they like, yo, Boots, we gonna be over here with Farside, dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You on some next stuff, dog.
Oh yeah. Bay Area legends.
Most definitely. Yes. There you go. Bay Area legends, the Coup. All right. Okay, so I think that's maybe all of the news that we've got right now, Vince. Vince, did you watch The Five Bloods yet? No.
I didn't. No. You know what gets me hemmed up? What? Like me and Wendy want to watch it together. So like getting that moment when, both of us can carve out the 2 hours and, I don't want to point fingers that one of us falls asleep, but one of us, like after 9:30, we can't really do anything deep. Like I'm not going to say one of us after 9:30 is going to fall asleep. And then the next day she's going to ask about some details, but if you point a finger at my wife, I'll whistle.
But I'm curious, Vince, how many things are you two actively watching together? Is it a lot or is it like
Like current shows.
Well, yeah, like the current shows or a movie.
We kept up with Insecure because the thing about Insecure is that it's a half hour.
Right. Right.
So we usually get hit Insecure. We watched Insecure. I'm trying to think the last thing we watched together. It may have been was it Queen Sugar?
Oh, really?
Oh, the Watchmen's been on since Queen Sugar, right?
Yes. Watchmen.
Right.
This year.
And I got her into Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched Watchmen. But that's really it.
Yeah.
Religiously.
Okay.
We've caught a couple episodes of All Rise.
Okay. Yeah.
Shout out
so
to Simone,
you finally checked it out.
Right. Cool. Shout out to Simone. Yeah.
Have you watched Life? Have you watched Life, Vince?
It's an hour.
So is All Rise.
I know, but that's kind of, it's not. I don't want to say light, but it's a little lighter than Life.
And it is episodic.
Right. Exactly. So again, now we run into the sleep issue.
Aaron Fry said, "Bro, you're not that old."
It's not me, Aaron. It's not me. I'm up till midnight. It ain't me.
You might want to lower your tone or close that door, Vince. I don't know.
I know.
I want no shoe coming at you, dog.
I know. Yeah, look, my wife is an early bird, so she's up early. So that also means that she'll
You know what? I have to find this clip. I was watching Richard Pryor live in concert the other night. Right, this is from 1979, and it's funny because me and my lady, we fell down a rabbit hole. We turned on Eddie Murphy's Delirious,
and
she hadn't seen that for like ever. I don't think like she had seen it since she was a kid. So watching it again, she was like taken in by how one, like how many jokes you just couldn't say now,
right,
and then Eddie says that he's 22 years old, and she's like, "Oh my God, Eddie Murphy is 22 years old here. My God, it's crazy." So we watched that, and then we got in a rabbit hole of comedy. So we saw Richard Pryor, and she said, "I've never really watched a Richard Pryor movie." And I said, "Well, let's watch this." And remind you, this was a movie. This was actually released in the theaters.
Oh yeah.
So we watched it. It's from 1979, and I have to find this clip. And if I find it, I'll put it here in the show. I'll plug it here into the show so people listening can check it out. Richard Pryor does a joke in 1979, not only about being afraid of the cops, not only about worrying about whether the cops are going to kill him, but he even mentions there that because cops got this chokehold dog that they will throw on brothers like in a heartbeat and just take them out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was like crazy, man. We were sitting there watching it. It's like, wow, this is 1979. This is over 40 years ago.
Look, man, we don't even want to go down that path.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that
path. Like, I feel like you can pull out some Robert Johnson from the 30s talking about it. Jazz singers from the 40s. I look, this thing with the police isn't old, isn't new.
That's true.
It's after 1979. My daughter has discovered a different world. And she watched the episode a couple of nights ago about the LA riots.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the same language. It's the same complaints. And then, the really sad part is there's a moment in the episode where like Dwayne or Whitley, like one of the characters says, we're dealing with this right now. Mm-hmm. So that our children won't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And Camille is like, well, they were like your age and I'm your child. I'm like, yeah, here we are.
That's right.
So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dominique is saying A Different World is the best and it holds up.
I was just about to say, and it actually holds up. It really does. It really does. So,
shout out to Debbie Allen.
Yes, we're in the last season now, and I want them to go real slow because the last 2 episodes make me real sad because Ron and Dwayne get into a fight.
Oh yeah, they almost like tear apart their friendship.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I remember that though. I remember that. I still remember. I think I shared this story on the show mentioned before. That one day I was watching watching Different World, and it wasn't like the last episode, but it was an episode where those two had gotten into like some kind of like tiff with one another, right? Some kind of like mad at each other, and then they settled it on the basketball court at the end of the episode, right? And I'm sitting in my basement watching the show, and I had just done like a show with my partner Jay, because my rap partner. So we had just did a show like that weekend or something like that. And I saw them too, and I called up Jay, and I was like, "Yo, man, you watching Different World?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." I'm like, "Yo, man, it's me and you, dog. It's me and you, dog. Me and you my man." He's like, "All right, bro, like hang up."
But that was man speak for "I love you too."
It was. That's what it was. I love my boy Jay. What's up, Jay? What's up, dog? All right. Okay. All right. Enough of that.
Enough of that.
Yes. That. Now it's time. Now it's time to review The Bodyguard.
All right. Let's get into it.
Now here's the thing. You said that this was my film. I don't think this always came across as kind of like both our films. I'm like, I'm fine to take it or leave, but
I mean, sure, but like I started last week, so it's your turn.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good. Let me get to my notes. My one note about.
Yeah. you got one note for the Bodyguard. Uh-oh. Let me get lubricated.
Nah, I'm ready.
I know you are. I know you are. All right, let me pull up.
I ain't mad. Sophia Knows says, Len, just give us a ballpark on the number of roles, jobs, and titles that you carry. What's she trying to say?
All right.
What is she trying to say?
All right.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 1992's The Bodyguard, a romance drama directed by Mick Jackson, is the story of best-selling pop diva Rachel Marin, played by Whitney Houston, who has a stalker whose obsession has risen to the level of disturbing threat. At the urging of her manager, Rachel hires former Secret Service agent Frank Farmer, played by Kevin Costner, as her bodyguard. Initially resented and treated with disdain for his hard-nosed security procedures, Farmer soon becomes an integral part of Rachel's inner circle. As they spend more time together, client and protector become closer still. Released in 1992, directed by Mick Jackson, written by Lawrence Kasdan, a script that had been bouncing around Hollywood for over a decade, again starring Kevin Costner and introducing Whitney Houston. The Bodyguard is our last film this month in Black Music Month. Lynn, what do you have to say about 1992's The Bodyguard?
Well, I'm going to start talking about 1992's Bodyguard by going back in time to the late 60s when this film was written by the writer Lawrence Kasdan, okay? Now, he wrote this film originally as a vehicle for then leading man Steve McQueen.
Mm-hmm.
Steve McQueen, most popularly known for the 70s action film Bullet, also
Mm.
for The Great Escape.
Mm.
He's also in The Towering Inferno as well.
Mm.
Steve McQueen is a man for Cool Hand. Luke, no, not Cool Hand. That's Paul Newman. He was also in the Magnificent Seven. That's what he was in. Steve McQueen, a man of few words, an action star, a man's actor at that
Yes.
time in the 60s and 70s, right? And Lawrence Kasdan wrote this for Steve McQueen, and in the role of the singer, because he always envisioned this being some singer, some superstar singer. He envisioned that role to be filled by Diana Ross.
Right.
Now, he had trouble getting this film made because it was deemed as too controversial,
Right.
which is not hard to imagine because this was a film about a white man falling in love with a black woman whom he has to protect.
Right.
And that was deemed as too controversial, so the movie doesn't get made. It bounces around Hollywood, as you mentioned, Vince. But Diana Ross is still interested in doing this film. This is around the time now we're going to the early to mid 70s when Diana Ross is solidly a solo artist and a solo artist of some renown. Got many Grammys and platinum records on her wall, and in that only have her name. So she's solidly, past the Supremes, making her way in movies by way of Lady Sings the Blues and Mahogany. So she wants to do this role as well and feels like this will be a perfect vehicle for her and her lover, star Ryan O'Neal, who was the star of Paper Moon.
Yes.
And the What's Up Pussycat with Barbra Streisand. And it looks like this movie is going to get made.
That's right.
But when a couple gets together to produce a film, sometimes that has a way of revealing the cracks in the union. And thus, as their relationship crumbled, so did this project. And it just laid there until Kevin Costner comes upon the scene and picks it up and says, hey, I think I can do something with this. I'm become a name in the movies here in the mid 80s to late 80s and early 90s. I think I can do something as I start to produce films. I think I can do something with The Bodyguard. And it just so happens that at the time that he comes upon this script and this project is right at the time that a young Whitney Houston is taking the world by storm. Primarily with a voice that no one can deny is touched by an angel. She is lighting up the stages. She is lighting up videos. She is lighting up concert halls all across the country. She is poised to become the number one performer in the world, right? And this is lockstep with her career. Okay, to make this move, this transition, to build upon my brand, I want to do a movie as well. Kevin Costner says, I think I have the movie for you, presents this to Whitney Houston's people. She loves it. They sign on, and we are off and running with The Bodyguard. Kevin Costner, in wanting to pay homage to the original inspiration for the role, Steve McQueen, a actor who he had some renown for as well, cuts his hair to style after Steve McQueen in this film, right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he
Kevin
does.
Costner, who has studied under the books of Steve McQueen for this role, also reads about how Steve McQueen would famously look at his scripts and literally start crossing out lines because he would see scenes where he could do more by showing than telling. And
Yeah.
Kevin Costner does that with the Bodyguard, most famously in the scene in the kitchen where he checks Whitney Houston's original bodyguard, Tony. That was a scene that was originally had more dialogue in it, but Kevin Costner famously said, "No, I can do more by just showing."
Yes.
And does an homage to Steve McQueen in that way. And Kevin Costner, who is an actor of some renown and an actor of pedigree and an actor of some chops, an actor who I actually enjoy for the most part when I see him in a project. He actually is a presence on the screen. Does a good amount of heavy lifting in this film, and I think he is pretty magnetic in this film. I do. I really do. I think that all of the actors are around him. You mentioned Bill Cobb, who is definitely a Micheaux Mission favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph Waits, who plays his father, who Gary Kemp, who plays Whitney Houston's character, Rachel Marin, plays her despicable publicist, Cy.
Yeah.
Michelle Lamar Richards, who plays her sister, Nikki. Mike Starr, who plays Tony. I think everybody in this film, including little Devon Nixon, who plays the son, actually orbits around Kevin Costner and to varying degrees of expertise and skill levels. But I think for the most part, they are rising to the occasion of acting against Kevin Costner to the betterment of this film. I think the director, Mick Jackson, not a director of any note, but I don't think that he gets in the way of this film. I think it is a movie that the second it comes on, and the second you understand what the movie is about this pop singer who's being threatened, and she has to hire this ex Secret Service agent to be her bodyguard. I think, and you know that it's a thriller / romance. The beats kind of writes itself. You kind of know where the story is going. There's a couple of red herrings that it throws towards the end that, if I'm being honest, when I remember watching this back in 1992, caught me out of the blue. But now watching it, I can see how things are kind of like set up, and I can see how it's all being set up to play out at the end. But you already know where the story is going. It's all about how does it present it to you? Does it do a good job of presenting the story to you? And I think that for the most part, the director Mick Jackson and all of the production work does a fair job getting over this very late 80s feeling, but it is early 90s thriller, right? Romantic thriller. The only time that Kevin Costner and Mick Jackson do this film a disservice is behind the scenes. Because as in learning about this film, you learn that Whitney Houston, who, let's celebrate her right now, with this soundtrack, which is an amazing soundtrack. And is rightfully, ladies and gentlemen, the best-selling soundtrack of all time. And that is all 100% thanks to the magnificence of Whitney Houston and her voice. when she goes to Kevin Costner and Mick Jackson about taking on this role and the challenges that she's going to face in taking on such a meaty role, you
Right.
know, the co-lead in this film against Kevin Costner as her feature film debut, she goes to them and says, "Hey, I want to take acting lessons." And Kevin Costner and the director Mick Jackson say, "No, Whitney, we want you just to be natural." And I think with that one direction, they set her up for failure in this film. Because I think that as a whole, on a whole, myself, I don't think Whitney Houston is terrible in this
Right.
movie. I think Whitney Houston, there are some scenes where Whitney Houston actually is, okay in this film. But I think more often than not, her naivete as an actor shows in scenes, especially when she's up against Kevin Costner, but even in scenes where she's up against someone else in the film. And I think that is a shame, because what easily I think could have been a 5-star movie, that knocks it down to a good 3.5, maybe even 3-star movie in some people's estimation. Because there, like I said, the story you've seen before, but there are beats in this moment, in this movie, that people are selling, and that if Whitney Houston is just a little bit stronger of an actor, it gets over so much more. It just lands so much more. The scenes where she's singing, the scenes where, that are wordless, she carries them because she has a face that that wears her emotions. So she knows what emotions
Sure.
she's supposed to portray. She gets those over. But it's when she has to play a line, give a line reading, that it the film suffers a bit. And it's a shame, because on the whole, I love the film. It's just another one of those films that also rings as a missed opportunity, because it could have been so much more.
Right. I think it's interesting talking about Whitney Houston's acting, because I think what do we have? We have this, Waiting to Exhale,
Mm-hmm.
The Preacher's Wife,
Yeah.
and Sparkle.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've now talked about 3 of her 4 films.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I liked her better than you did in The Preacher's Wife.
Yes.
I think we both agreed that she's listless and frankly, she's dying.
Yeah.
In Sparkle. I liked her best in Waiting to Exhale.
Yeah.
And I think Whitney Houston in Waiting to Exhale is similar to 1 or 2 actresses that we've talked about before. And the one that jumps in my mind is Queen Latifah, where I think when she is with other Black women, there's this warmth and this naturalism that, as you said, they were going for in this film, that comes through. I think she's okay in this film, much like you. And I think a lot of it is she's basically playing a version of herself.
Mm-hmm.
She's playing a version of herself, obviously the singing, but you also get the sense just how she navigates the people around her.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you look at her, the various relationships, like they never actually define who Bill Cobbs is in her life.
Right.
But you get the sense he's an older uncle. I assume she would call him dad if it was her father. But you can sense this is somebody who has been in her career since the beginning.
Yeah, I said he was probably her manager.
Right. Her publicist, You get, they actually said this is almost a family. Even Tony, who is the initial security. So, and you get the sense with Whitney Houston, this is kind of how she did her life.
Right.
So that I think that worked. Much like you, I think the direction was nothing to write home about, but it didn't get in the way. I will say this. The one thing that I really admired about Mick Jackson is that he trusted Whitney Houston, the musician, and you'll notice we don't see her actually perform for almost 40 minutes. Like we see videos of her, we see her performing through the monitor, but we don't actually see her on stage until the film has been on for a significant amount of time. And then, it gets steadily, it builds steadily, even with the I Will Always Love You, which I had forgotten how they seeded it in the script.
Oh, okay.
The version in the film is not the epic that we all know,
right?
Which I thought was really well done.
It's not even the original version of the song.
It's not the original version of the song, but it's not the Whitney Houston version.
Right.
Like, you don't get that crescendo like you get when they were playing it on the radio every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They trusted it. I think that Kevin Costner as Steve McQueen has been an ongoing source of conversation about this film since it came out. It's kind of interesting. You look at the reviews, and there's all this. Kevin Costner is playing, and I just don't get Kevin Costner.
Really?
Like,
you don't like Kevin Costner?
You know what Kevin Costner is? Kevin Costner is potato bread.
Oh, Vince. Well, I like potato bread.
You remember the first time you had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on potato bread?
That's true. It's
and you said, this is some amazing white bread. And then somebody said, oh, it's not white bread. It's potato bread. And you said, wow, this is the best white bread I've ever had. And that's Kevin Costner.
No, he's not.
Look, Kevin Costner is tall.
Yeah, he may be tallish. I don't know how tall he is.
I mean, he's tall for show business. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2".
That's tall for show business. That's true.
And he's a white guy. But like the misfire of Kevin Costner as Steve McQueen, and we've talked about Steve McQueen before. Steve McQueen was one of the coolest cats to ever be in front of a camera.
Okay, I give you
so
that.
Like Steve McQueen can go through scripts and cross out words. Like, when's the last time you watched Bullet? I
just watched Bullet.
How much of Bullet is Steve McQueen just walking around in that black turtleneck with the gun?
Yes, that's true.
Just being cool. Kevin Costner could never be Steve McQueen.
Okay, fair enough.
You know what? I thought about you. There's a moment in here because Larry Kasdan, when he talks about this script, says that he was inspired by Yojimbo.
Yes.
Which is the famous Kurosawa film, samurai film. And they actually show 4 seconds of it. They go to the movie, they go and see it, and they show, and oh my goodness, because he's my man. I just lost his name. It was right. I just had Yojimbo up and I moved it because damn it, Len. I just had I got so many things open. Oh, and Toshiro Mifune, who plays in those 4 seconds, Toshiro Mifune has more charisma than Kevin Costner does the entire movie. Like, they show him pull out the sword and he cuts the dude. I said, now I want to watch Yojimbo.
Okay. I'll give you that.
And in my mind, that is just as much of a detriment to Whitney Houston's performance, because Whitney Houston is bouncing off of this character.
Right.
And not for one moment do I understand why she is drawn to this plank of wood.
Well, I can understand to a degree. Okay. All right. First of all.
You know, Shake Shack puts his burgers on potato rolls too. He's like, this is the best hamburger roll I ever had. And they're like, yeah, it's a potato roll.
First of all, now every time I see Kevin Costner, all I'm going to see is a Martin's roll of potato bread.
Right. It's not marble rye. It's not wheat.
Okay. I agree that you cannot compare Kevin Costner to Steve McQueen on the charisma scale. Okay? I'll give you that. All right? And perhaps there are some scenes where I too questioned, does she have her contact lenses on? What in fact is she looking at? Even though, to be fair, there were times where I was questioning, what are you looking at, bro? But anyway, I can understand story-wise, though, as someone who starts off the film oblivious really to the amount of danger that is around her.
Okay.
And then is slowly being made aware of how much her and her son's life are threatened. And the person who is telling her this is also the same person who has pledged that he will take a bullet for her. I can see how someone can be drawn to that. It's much in the same way they speak of people falling in love with a fireman that pulls them from a fire, or their doctor.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I can see that, especially because not only is he someone who is protecting her, but he's someone who, despite her better wishes, is turning her life upside down, but she can tell that it's for the better. She can tell this is someone who is making a connection with her son as well. And that can be very attractive to someone. So
that's fair. I think that's fair.
I can appreciate story-wise her.
I was about to say the script, yeah. The other thing, and I'm so surprised that I even have to say this, because I knew you were going to say it. This movie is way too long.
Oh yeah.
This movie is way too long. Like, I kept looking. First of all, why they had to go up into the mountains?
Yeah, that was. I think it's really weird if you go up into the mountains and the movie doesn't end there,
And it doesn't do anything. Like they're still attacked. Now they just up in the mountains. I actually thought she was going to get outed. I said, all right, go on up in the woods. You about to get outed.
Yeah. That doesn't do anything. Actually, the mountain, the scene in the mountain only serves to the only service that it does to the film is to reveal her sister Nikki as being complicit in all the shenanigans that's going on.
But I don't know. I kind of figured that out pretty early. She was in on it. Like she didn't quite twirl her mustache.
No, she didn't.
But
well, you said
close. Like she's always in the shadows, staring daggers at her.
Maybe, but I don't think you ever thought that she was like taking a hit out on her. I mean,
right.
maybe.
You know what else I like?
What?
She still wanted to kill Rachel. She was sad that her nephew was going to get her. But at no point did she say, I don't want to kill Rachel anymore. She just said, I would never hurt the baby. I would never hurt that baby boy.
Just her. Just her. Her.
I can't even sit on the dock and sing about Jesus without her coming behind me and out singing me.
How many of us haven't been there when we're just alone in our thoughts?
Right.
You know, just singing a little ditty to ourselves, and then all of a sudden, the Beyonce in our family got to come.
Right. Your oldest. And I know she watches me. I said, damn, Rachel, read the room.
Like she couldn't like just come in and just join harmony. No, she all of a sudden had to be on the Apollo.
Right. Like or just sit down next to her silently and hold her hand.
Right. See, I might have to kill her then too.
I was about to say, I was like, her sister actually makes good points.
She perhaps may have had to die at that
right
as well. But yeah, this film is crazy long. If you only cut, and it's a shame. Oh my God, let me tell you, watching these movies with my lady has been a hoot, because she literally like has a whiteboard as we're watching it, and she's marking every time that Whitney Houston seems to fall in love, you know, with Kevin Costner, and then he'll do one very like innocent thing in the service of his job, and then all of a sudden he's the biggest jerk on earth. And it happens like about 6 times throughout the movie, all the way to the end.
Yes.
Even at the end, she's still riding him about something. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, if you only cut off like about 2 of those moments, you've cut a half hour off this film.
The story kind of just, it just kind of, it's middling.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of movement at so like you said, you know the beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's going to be some type of reversal. Somebody in her camp is in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that this film is missing, I will say this, and mind you, I gave it like about a 3.5, right?
I think that's a fair rating.
I think that's fair, and to be honest, it gets that half point because the soundtrack is so mind blowing, and to Whitney's credits, the scenes where she is singing, I still feel a flush in my cheeks when she is singing.
Oh yeah,
when she is at the club singing, I got the stuff that you want. I every time I see that scene, I feel it. I'm a Whitney Houston fan, but I don't kneel at the altar of Whitney Houston. And right. I think I'm like a lot of people, like, you know, we like Whitney, but when we really think of Whitney, we're thinking of her more mid-tempo and ballad songs. But that one song, the fire of that song, she gets that song over, and it really hits me. She is great in that. But the other missing part about this film, and you kind of touched on it, is that it's thrilling enough, and I guess it's romantic enough. But when you put romance and thrilling together, usually the X in the middle is sexy. And this movie is not sexy.
No.
At all. And that is what's missing from the film.
Yeah. I don't think they had any chemistry at all. I think your argument about the story is a really good one. And frankly, I wish the script would have leaned into that more.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was some acknowledgement, you're not my type. I usually don't go for planks of wood, but you're trying to save my life. Or, I don't really date black ladies, but you and I have this thing going on. I actually was surprised they consummated the relationship, and fairly early in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is the film is too damn long, but then, I mean, just story-wise, I thought it was an interesting choice that they didn't try and lean on this kind of electricity of that will they, won't they.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get a passionate kiss at the end. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Now, something I did want to spend a little time on. I think it's worth circling back to the fact that this script was always meant to be an interracial couple.
Right.
With a black woman and a white man. And something that came up this afternoon in my house, was that necessary? Like, could Whitney Houston's character have been played by, I don't know, Celine Dion? Or could Kevin Costner's character have been played by Denzel Washington?
Right.
Like, does it change the film if it is two white people or two black people?
That's a good question. It kind of came up between me and my lady as well. I don't know. I think it does change it, because the lack or the middling chemistry between Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston notwithstanding, I think the story of a white man having to protect a black woman and then falling for that black woman does carry a different weight to it than if it is reversed, than if it is a black man falling for a white woman.
Right, but I'm saying if you remove the racial dynamic altogether. So that's why I said if you have two black, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm saying if both characters are black or both characters are white, do you think that changes it?
I don't think it necessarily changes the story. I think it maybe changes. I think it changes. I don't think you have the same subtext. I think there is a subtext that is there in this film. I don't think it gets over as well as it could have. But I think it's absent if you have two white people or two black people. I don't think the subtext is there.
I agree. I think, and even now I'm articulating it really for the first time in real time. I think this sense that they come from different worlds is sort of underlined by the racial difference.
Yeah, me too.
And frankly, I think Frank's character being ex-Secret Service and then going back into that field feels very much like a white male authority role.
Okay.
It's kind of like in The Matrix where all the agents were white men. Because it would have been weird if one of them was like a white woman or like, I don't know, a Puerto Rican man. It was like, this feels weird. So, and then this diva singer, again, I think the original diva, the way we think about a diva, is always Diana Ross.
Yeah.
So it kind of has to be a black woman.
Yeah, I think it has to be a black woman. Catrice Greer, she actually agrees with me. Hey, that's one for the good guys. Uh, the subtext
Yeah.
would be
Hey,
the
homie.
subtext would be different if the races of the main characters were a different combination. So thank you, Catrice. That's why she's
Yeah.
one of my favorite missionaries. Uh,
There you go.
um,
Well, I've known her longer though, so there.
that don't mean nothing.
Apparently not.
Hey Vince,
Yes.
is this a black film?
Well, that's sort of what I was getting to. I think I just talked myself into saying it is a black film.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I think if you mess with the racial composition of the characters, you've now changed the movie.
Yeah. I agree too. Well, first of all, I do think that it's a black film because I think that Whitney Houston being the lead in this film, especially where she is in her career at this moment in time, I think is a very monumental thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What she brings to the table in this film by way of her star power and by way of her the soundtrack is it is not to be denied, and let's face it, it is record shattering. Like I said, it's the number one selling soundtrack of all time. So I think in much of the same way that we've talked about some of the films of Denzel and Will Smith that easily could be cast with Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt and you wouldn't change anything, yet we still consider them black films because they are the lead. Whitney Houston as the co-lead in this film and not just co-lead, she is the meat, the meat of the story, makes this a black film. Never mind what we just talked about the subtext of the story and everything like that. I think just her presence in this film makes this decidedly a black film.
I agree. And furthermore, I think, as we mentioned earlier, we really only have 4 films with Whitney Houston. Yeah. We only have 4 films, and of those 4 films, I think 2 of them, this and Waiting to Exhale, you really get a snapshot of the iconic Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think we talked about Sparkle, and even though I liked her more than you did in A Preacher's Wife, I still think there's a bit of a shadow over her by the time you get to A Preacher's Wife. But when we think about Whitney Houston, the icon, when we think about what made Whitney Houston more than just a singer, mm-hmm. I think this is a great representation of that. As you and I both said, she does okay acting, but as soon as she sings, and a lot of that, this is a testament to Mick Jackson, mm-hmm. where I think he does a great job capturing some of that energy. I think just for its role as documentary footage almost of this icon, it's definitely a black film.
And I think we should be fair and give Whitney her just due in reading the backstory of this film. I think it is fair to mention that during the course of filming The Bodyguard, she actually suffered a miscarriage and had to miss a few weeks of filming. So it with that in the back of your mind, that also may speak to some of her performances in some scenes, depending on when they were shot.
Right.
What she was going through physically and as well as emotionally at that time.
So, point of clarification, Aaron Fry pointed out that she also plays the fairy godmother in Cinderella, the television version.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah. I always forget about that because, she's a fairy godmother. But yes, she was also. But I think that's Yeah, but I think that's iconic for a certain age group.
Oh, no,
That's
I
come
feel
up
you.
before. Yeah, that's come up before that Brandy Cinderella.
Yeah, I feel you. Um, Also, this is just a little interesting piece of trivia, Vince. The what I consider iconic, maybe you don't consider it iconic, the iconic movie poster for The Bodyguard, which I'll show to the people checking us out on YouTube and Facebook right now.
Oh yeah,
That
it's a great
iconic,
image.
great image. That's not Whitney Houston.
Oh, cool.
That is actually her body double. Whitney Houston was
Oh,
unavailable at that time, and who knows, she may have actually been in dealing with her physical situation that I just mentioned. That is her body double. Kevin Costner just directed her to hide her face, but still try and show the fear. And that
oh.
was, and the image was so good they used it for the movie poster.
Well, that is a nice little tidbit, Lynn.
Yeah, yeah, I
Look
thought
at
so.
you pulling out the research.
Well, you know, some someone's got to do it. All
Yes,
right.
yes,
So, Vince,
yes.
would you recommend people watch The Bodyguard?
I would. I think you have to. Just once.
Yeah,
Just once though, because it's long, and I don't know if it justifies its length. But yeah,
it's
you should watch it once.
it's long, but I will say more so than watch it. I do think of this as a film that is worth owning. Um,
Oh,
I do because while I think that you could easily own the soundtrack and take in the magic of the soundtrack, I think that there are a couple of moments in the film that, like you said, are not only iconic images of Whitney Houston, but they're almost iconic performances of some of these songs. You know,
yeah, true.
and even with the stylized editing that is done in the film, like how many of us? I mean, I guess maybe some of these you could see the music video, but it's not the same. How many of us, when you think about this movie, think about when she's singing, you know, uh, if I don't have you, and that great shot when her name Rachel goes off in fireworks at the top of the hotel. You know what I mean? I think about that all the time. I think about her on stage at the club, all like decked out in her armor and all of that. Um, I just a lot of times when I do think of Whitney Houston, I find myself going to images from this film. So I think that is worth owning. You know?
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah,
The
I really do.
full-throated recommendation from Lynn Webb.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we tell you what we're going to be watching next week on the Micheaux Mission, I invite you to send all of your feedback, comments, and commentary. Email us at the Micheaux Mission, email us at micheauxmission at gmail.com. Micheaux is spelled Micheaux, MISSION at gmail.com. And you can also like and follow us on all the social media. Just type in Micheaux Mission and you'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and join the Facebook group, also called Micheaux Mission, where we have a lot of fun with all of our missionary friends. The Micheaux Mission is available as a radio show every Saturday at 1 p.m. on WPPM 106.5 FM, Philly Cam.
Billy Cam.
Here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. And you can wake up with the Micheaux Mission every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on WKDU 91.7 FM, the voice of Drexel University. The Micheaux Mission is also a proud member of the Podglomerate Podcast Network. The Podglomerate, curated podcast just for your listening pleasure. And you can check us out any place that you look for podcasts, look for the Micheaux Mission, and you'll find us. And when you do, please, if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a review because that helps people find our show. And if you don't find our show there, then why are you listening there? Go someplace else. But if that is your home for podcasts, then tell the powers that be that you want your mission and you want it now. Make it so. Okay. All right. All right, Vince.
All right.
Just a quick aside to my friend and missionary George Carmona.
Hey, what's up, George?
George, there will be a Spock adjacent coming your way relatively soon. Stay tuned, brother.
Okay.
He's been waiting, and it's coming, George. It's coming.
Live long, prosper.
Live long enough, and another Spock adjacent will come.
Right.
All right, Vince. I believe it is your turn to choose our film.
I believe so. And I've enjoyed the Music Month so much that I want to have a bit of an encore.
No, you really?
Really,
Vince?
Really? I mean, it's a little bit of an encore. It's not quite an encore, but we have been circling around her. She has been the subtext and the text for at least 3 of the last films that we've talked about. We've already done the rest of her filmography, so I want to go ahead and finish it up. 1975, directed by Barry Gordy, starring Billy D. Williams, Anthony Perkins, and yes, the boss, Diana Ross. Next week, Lynn,
yes.
Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? We are watching Mahogany.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Hey, Lynn. Directed by Barry Gordy.
Something tells me this show is going to write itself, ladies and gentlemen.
When's the last time you saw Mahogany?
It came out in 1975. I maybe saw it when it hit the TV in 1976 on the Sunday night movie. That's the last time I seen it.
All right. Well, then you're almost coming into it fresh, aren't you?
Wow. I do remember watching Mahogany and saying, I'm not supposed to be watching this film. Because I think her bare shoulder was out or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not supposed to be watching this.
Oh, yeah, because she had spiraled out of control. Brian had to come to Rome.
Oh,
Lynn.
Boy.
Lynn.
Yes.
Success is wonderful. But it means nothing if you don't have someone you love to share it with. You remember that.
Mahogany, next week, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Micheaux Mission. Until then, he's Vince, I'm Len, and in parting, we say...
We'll see you when it's time to meet again.
Dominique said, oh, yeah. Oh, my God. See you, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe. Be well. We'll talk to you.